Hey, this is Amazon Jude coming to you from Casper, Wyoming. I wanted you guys to pay attention to what I'm telling you in this one. It's very, very important, and it's going to be haggled over and written about in history books for years to come. So let's get started with Uncle Jed.
I'm going to talk about these crazy son-of-bitch Democrats talking about impeaching the president. Now listen here. How the hell you going to impeach the president and he ain't even done nothing? The only thing he done done, these goddamn Democrats, is to whoop their ass in the election. Now all you young black folks out there, y'all need to listen to Grandpa. Y'all need to move away from these socialist sons of bitches and stop voting with these baby killers. All they doing is taking time from you young niggas and giving it to the goddamn Mexicans. How fucking dumb you gotta goddamn be to be fucking a goddamn socialist? Well, any nigga can win an argument with a motherfucking socialist. All you gotta do is say, where the fuck you done worked at? Dumbass motherfucker, Venezuela.
So he wants to get this thing over and done with. He feels exonerated. I think he also feels
view, and what we're learning, it seems to back up exactly what President Trump has been saying.
Yeah, no, I think it does back up and says what President Trump really wants to get to. He wants to get this thing over and done with. He feels exonerated. I think he also feels frustrated. There's been no indication of collusion. And the Mueller investigation is kind of wandering all over now, way beyond the scopes of whether there was collusion in the 2016 presidential election. So I think President Trump is exactly right. And I think Christopher Wray basically said, look, President Trump hasn't put any pressure on me. And I think that's right. Everything that I was hearing beforehand was that was the case.
Christopher Wray has that job because of President Trump. And so for him to say that the president hasn't spoken with him or put pressure on regarding Russia, what does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that President Trump is giving him wide berth and the freedom and independence that he needs as the director of the FBI, with particularly the investigation that Mueller's conducting. The real issue is why isn't Rod Rosenstein, who's the #2 guy at DOJ, why isn't he putting some constraints on that? Why isn't he putting some constraints on that investigation? This
Mueller's all over the map.
It's way beyond the boundary, and it's gotten way long.
Why isn't he? Do you know?
Well, the way I read it is that Rod Rosenstein helped bring Mr. Mueller on, and that his management style is to take a hands-off approach. Well, this is his buddy. He's got given him lots of room, and I think that's a real problem myself.
Hands-off, but hands-on taxpayer money and time to watch this.
Yes. Exactly right. And so it continues to go on and on and on. And quite frankly, a special counsel is going to go as long.
That's Andy Biggs, Arizona.
As you let them go, because they want to come back somewhere along the way and say, look, this is the work product we've done.
So, Congressman Biggs, though, isn't that a little tricky? Because if you step in on Robert Mueller at this point and you thwart this investigation, and I don't know if an attacking tweet does that, I want to get your opinion on that too. But if you do, that doesn't stop the investigation, or does it?
Policy.
Well, a tweet doesn't do anything other than express what I think is frustration, and quite frankly.
But it has no chill.
Yeah. Well, Trey kind of screwed up when he was saying earlier that Trump ought to just get out of the way. Well, you know what, Trey Gowdy, you've been tasked with Hillary Clinton's emails, and you and Goodlatte. And so far, we haven't seen anything out of you guys anywhere near a direction on that. You haven't even interviewed your first witnesses on it. And secondly, if the FBI was crawling up your ass for the last 14 months, or should I say Mueller crawling up your ass for the last 14 months, I think you'd be a little cranky too. So you need to step off and quit playing TV right-wing man because you're not exactly correct either.
Effect in your understanding.
It has no chilling effect.
And if you fired Robert Mueller, would the investigation go away?
Not necessarily, but so we've actually discussed legislation here in the House that I think is appropriate, and that is put some boundaries on this investigation, put a timeline in there. Let's get a report done.
What's he going to do, investigate for 4 years?
Because in my opinion, President Trump has been exonerated from everybody by like Comey, like Clapper, the House Intelligence Committee. Okay, so there's no collusion there. There's no point for this investigation. So let's find a way to
Correct.
pull the plug, and maybe the Congress needs to do that.
That's fascinating. Because there are two things going on, and I want to know from you, are there two factions on Capitol Hill, and are some of them Republicans? So what you're saying
There's
is
like
put some
5 factions,
boundaries on where
sweetheart.
Mueller's going, and particularly what he can spend and where he can go and all that. But then you have people who want to put some boundaries on whether or not the president can fire Robert Mueller and to save his job.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, I actually heard somebody from the other party on the floor today say that we need to pass a bill that Robert Mueller can't be fired.
That's the most ridiculous
it's really
thing I've heard.
Indicative of the division within the country in some respects. But it also gets to the heart of this.
That's kind of like Robert Painter from Wisconsin. He's running for Al Franken's seat. I knew Franken was behind this, and I knew Kamala Harris because when Jeff Sessions was doing his confirmation hearing, those two rattled Jeff Sessions like a cage. They rattled his cage bad and tricked him into recursing himself. And that's where this all began, is because Kamala Harris and Al Franken rattled Sessions' cage so bad. So I guess now McCabe is saying that he had an investigation going on Jeff Sessions for perjury in his Senate hearing confirmation, which is bullshit, because that was just a roundabout way of McCabe trying to figure out how to stick it to Sessions and Trump before he walked out the door on his retirement. So I'm glad he lost his retirement until the age of 57 or 62, whatever it is, because those guys are some dirty son of a bitches, and it's coming out little by little. You guys are all going to find out that that whole deep state of Obama administration was the most corrupt we've had. It makes Watergate look like a walk in the park.
And that is, originally, people were calling for President Trump to be impeached
before he
even got
committed
sworn
a
in.
crime.
And that kind of
Never
this
even
whole
committed a crime.
delegitimization thing is what I think
Mad
is
Max, a
driving
crazy
what's going
black
on
woman
now.
out of
And it's not producing anything
California,
positive in the investigation,
doesn't
not
even live in
producing
her
anything positive
district.
for the country either.
Last question for you, Representative. Robert Mueller enjoys bipartisan support for the most part.
No, he
Do you
doesn't.
support him? And, considering
The only
some
ones
boundaries
supporting
that
him
you'd
are
like
the
to put
crooks
on
that
the
worked with him.
investigation, do you support him staying and finishing the
McCain,
job?
No, I've been
Corker.
calling for his recusal since last.
You need to ask old Corker and Senator Warner about their Georgia deal during the housing bubble of 2008, when those two did some inside trading and made millions with a real estate company called Luker, L-U-K-E-R. Research that a little bit and you'll be amazed. Those guys did some inside trading and got a whole lot of money.
June. The very fact that the team that he put together is so biased and has so many conflicts.
Yeah, they're all Democrat donors. And Stoltz and Page gets caught texting each other, 1.2 million documents that need to go through? And Congress has only seen, 3,000 of them? And that's what we've gotten so far? Is those two were plotting an insurance? Well, you know what the insurance was exonerate Clinton and frame Trump.
Indicates to me that this investigation, indicated to me back then that this investigation would not be an objective investigation. I'd suggest that that's the case today. I don't think his product has been scintillating in any way, and I think that we'd all be better served if he was gone.
Would you replace him?
I would not necessarily replace him. I think that his work is done. I think we need a second special counsel now to go back and investigate the corruption that we've discovered, that the Inspector General has discovered over time as well.
Well, brand new addition to the president's legal team, attorney Joe DeGeneva. He's argued actors within the Justice Department are trying to take down the president of the United States.
That's exactly what they're trying to do.
This is the single most important scandal of the last 50 years because senior DOJ and FBI officials engaged in conduct that was designed to corrupt an American presidential election. It wasn't the Russians who corrupted the presidential election. It was the American officials at the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Well, thank you, Tucker. The text messages are a window into the FBI's highly charged internal politics under then Director James Comey and suggest at least one senior investigator was skeptical the Russia probe would uncover wrongdoing. 2 days after Special Counsel Robert Mueller took over the probe in May, now demoted FBI agent Peter Strzok and now reassigned FBI lawyer Lisa Page discussed the merits of joining Mueller's team. Strzok tells Page, "You and I both know the odds are nothing. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part because of my gut sense and concern there's no big..."
Busted! Oh my God, these guys are so busted. These guys are so busted.
Highly charged internal politics under then Director James Comey and suggests at least one senior investigator was skeptical the Russia probe would uncover wrongdoing. 2 days after Special Counsel Robert Mueller took over the probe in May, now demoted FBI agent Peter Strzok and now reassigned FBI lawyer Lisa Page discussed the merits of joining Mueller's team. Strzok tells Page, "You and I both know the odds are nothing. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part because of my gut sense and concern there's no big there." In another more cryptic text, Strzok writes, "I personally have a sense of unfinished business. Unleashed it with MYE, that stands for mid-year exam, the FBI's code name for the Clinton email case. And now I need to fix it and finish it." Another Republican who read the text said the FBI officials talk about a secret society within days of President Trump's victory.
There was a society of at least two people, to include Peter Strzok and Lisa Page,
John Ratcliffe,
that had a desire to keep Donald Trump from becoming president, and then an expressed intent to work against him after he was elected president.
The FBI blames a technical problem for a 5-month gap in the Strzok Page text and would not comment to Fox News on whether the Bureau has taken physical custody of their phones for a forensic review that could recover those texts. Tucker.
Catherine Harris, thanks for always being on this. Joe diGenova is a former U.S. attorney in D.C., and he joins us tonight.
Hire a pit bull, Trump. Good for you.
So, on Special Report, a little over an hour
Little
ago,
cocksuckers think they're smart.
Senator,
show them which way the ball flies.
Security Committee suggested that the secret society referenced in these texts may have been an actual thing, and it may have meant off-site, away from the FBI secretly. We don't know more than that.
Well, we know Obama met with people across the street, so he wouldn't have to log them into the White House.
To illegally exonerate Hillary Clinton, and if she didn't win the election, to then frame Donald Trump with a falsely created crime.
Yep.
Everything that we have seen from these texts and from all the facts developing shows that the FBI and senior DOJ officials conspired to violate the law and to deny Donald Trump his civil rights.
What would be the motive for that?
The motive would be that they didn't like Donald Trump. They didn't think he was fit to be president, and they were going to do everything within their power to exonerate Hillary Clinton, and if she lost, to frame Donald Trump with a false crime.
There you have it.
Because they didn't think he should be president.
What do you make?
They wanted to hide their crimes.
5 months of text messages between Strzok and Lisa Page have somehow disappeared, as Lois Lerner's emails did, as Hillary Clinton's emails did.
Well, as an old United States attorney who has watched obstruction of justices over the years, that explanation from the Bureau is ludicrous. Those texts were either purposely destroyed, period. They were purposely destroyed. Moreover, they exist somewhere. I can assure you the NSA has them. Other companies have them. Verizon has them. AT&T. And if the Bureau can't figure out how to get them, they're in worse shape than I thought they were.
So you don't buy it at all?
No, absolutely not. Those texts exist, and if they don't exist, they were destroyed.
So you suggest this is obstruction of justice.
You
How
betcha.
do we proceed if the country's chief law enforcement agency is itself guilty of that?
Well, the Attorney General needs to appoint a special counsel, and if he doesn't want to do that, he needs to make sure that the criminal division of the Justice Department impanels a grand jury immediately and starts putting in that grand jury under oath Comey, Strzok, Page, Baker, McCabe, everybody is, and senior Justice Department officials, Sally Yates, Bruce Orr, and others, John Carlin, the head of the National Security Division. All of these people need to be in front of a federal grand jury. We have long since passed the time when we need to have just congressional investigations for this. Make no mistake about it. A group of FBI and DOJ people were trying to frame Donald Trump of a falsely created crime.
That's exactly right. We called it a long time ago. We've known this since the beginning. Everything that the Democrats have been doing has been to protect these guys because they put all their eggs in that basket. Remember what old Chuck Schumer said on that Day show? FBI and CIA have 7 ways to Sunday to mess with you. Well, that's exactly what they did. And that's what they're trying to do now. And the cover-up is already started. And as long as these guys have any access to any of the records in any of these agencies, things are going to continue to disappear. And, you know, it's time. It's time to take out the deep state. And that is who the deep state is. Those 4 top intel agencies, FBI, DOJ, CIA, and NSA, all 4 of them. Because you can remember when Booker and everybody else, Congressman Booker was saying, oh, it was 17 agencies that all agreed that Russia interfered in the election. Well, turns out that was one big old fat lie. It was only 4 of them that agreed. Clapper, Brennan, Comey, and what was the 4th one? McCabe. Okay, so you got your 4 guys right there. All 4 are supposedly Mueller's top dog witnesses against President Trump. Well, you know what? Their credibility is shit. They all got busted lying to Congress. They all got busted lying under oath. They all perjured themselves. And then you have Rosenstein, who's connected to all of them. So you have 5 big dogs right there that all need to be brought to justice immediately. Then you climb the chain just a little further up, and you go to Lynch. You go to Yates. You go to Valerie Jarrett, and it leads right to Obama's front door. Okay, that's where that's got to go, because I know they don't want to bring down the former president and his cabinet, because everything that these guys prosecuted, all the times that they've been in office and all the people that have been railroaded will get another chance at trial. And that will be like Flynn. That would be even Papadopoulos, who had never even met the president, but yet he's some star witness because he talked to some ambassador drunk on his ass in a bar somewhere. They used that to get a FISA warrant. What a crock of shit. Then you got the fake dossier. Nobody can even substantiate the son of a bitch. You know, secondly, I don't know how well you guys think you know Trump, but just what I've seen and followed through the last, say, 15 years, he's a clean freak. Watch him on his own plane when he goes in for inspection after he's, you know, is ran 2 or 3 runs and he goes in and the guys clean it. He goes in there pretty much with a white glove, and everything has to be shiny from the knobs on the doors all the way down to the floors. If there's any scuff marks, he will raise hell. Okay, he's anal retentive that way. My husband is that way too. If something is dirty, he will see it and he wants it cleaned up. So for some Russian bitch to be pissing on the bed just doesn't even come close to Trump himself, because he's meticulous about cleaning. Then you have those little slinky bitches coming out, what, 12 years later? Who cares? One of them was totally consensual, if it happened at all, which I doubt, because at the time Trump had a brand new baby at home, and Melania, and he loves her. That man loves her like he loves nobody else, and he would never play around on her. And the second one, he inappropriately kissed me. That Stormy, she's pissed off because after she was canned from The Apprentice, she wanted Trump to you remember this, because it came out in, I don't know, 4 or 5 papers afterwards, that she wanted Trump to come over to her restaurant and endorse her restaurant. And when he refused, this was her retaliation, is because her restaurant obviously folded and she doesn't have any money anymore. So that's what hers is about. Let's see what else is going on.
It's got to be
Here
the
it
nicest
is.
757 on the planet.
The plane is very much an extension of the Trump brand.
The Trump brand.
Boeing 757 is one of the largest, most luxurious private jets in the world. So how do you tell one of America's richest men that his pride and joy is in pieces? And that you may have lost one of the jet's most vital parts.
You gotta watch this documentary. It's called Donald Trump's. You gotta watch this.
And Trump has made a special request that will force his pilot to make a very tricky maneuver.
You got to watch this. It's called Donald Trump's Private Air Force One plane documentary by National Geographic. This will give you a great idea of just how meticulous our president is about everything in his life.
It's the place to be for America's rich and famous. It's also home to one of the largest and most luxurious private jets in the world. This Boeing 757 is a sleek, narrow-bodied, long-legged beauty. And she's treated like the celebrity who owns her. Visitors at this private airfield can't resist gawking and taking photos. They must keep their distance, because like the billionaire tycoon who bought her, she commands respect.
Exactly.
This is Donald Trump's private jet. A Boeing 757 that's a giant in its class. And this is the man who Donald Trump trusts with his life. He's John Duncan, and he's been Trump's personal pilot on and off since 1989.
You got to watch that, guys. I know you would enjoy it. There's a part in here, let's see if I can find it, where he does an inspection of his own plane. And when he goes in there, it's totally just absolutely cleaned from top to bottom every time he drives that. Every time Duncan takes that to meet Donald Trump at any of his resorts or anywhere around the world. Because you got to remember, Trump has been a businessman for what, 40 years? And he has been all over the world. So the point being on that too is that Trump does know a lot of people. And I'm sure he's come in contact with just about every country there is because of the Trump brand. And to constantly pick on the man because he congratulated Putin. Well, you know what? I can remember when Obama told Putin after the election he'd have more flexibility. What does that mean? Trump never said that to Putin. Okay, and I can remember Obama congratulating Fidel Castro, Saddam Hussein, the Arabs for their presidential wins, Turkey's presidential win. Okay, those are dictatorships. And here's the left slamming Trump for congratulating Putin. We've got to work with Russia at one point or another. They are a superpower. We are a superpower, and so is China. And Gorbachev once said, we never want a war with Russia. And the man was 100% right. So I don't know what these Democrats are thinking that a war with Russia is going to do other than kill another 5,000 or more of our soldiers and possibly set off a world war. So if you keep electing these Democrats, whether it be on your local level, your state level, your county level, or the federal level, you're asking for a war with a superpower that where we are right now, we couldn't possibly fight and hope to have any kind of victory in it. In fact, it would start a world war with many, many countries. So these Democrats are just, they're absolutely gone nuts because they lost power. They can no longer control the people. They can't blackmail Trump. They can't break financially Trump. And they can't, what do you want to call it? Impeach Trump because he's done nothing wrong. If you look back, you've got 13 months of FBI investigation, 5 panels from the intel to the judicial to Homeland Security, all doing investigations on Trump, and not a one of them. And then Mueller comes into the picture, who's appointed by Rosenstein, who is pals with Comey and pals with Mueller. This whole damn thing reeks of corruption, treason, espionage, spying on the president. You know, all of these guys could be hung. If this happened in any other country in the world, They would be hung by the neck till they're dead in the courtyard. You know, and I've suggested this a few times, that they need to be on trial on the world stage and found guilty of their crimes against humanity, against sitting presidents, and overthrowing other governments. We just had the worst administration leave the White House. And here we are trying to put the country back together, and you've got Democrats slow walking every single appointment being done by this president. He's been in office coming up on 2 years, and he is still waiting for over 200 of his appointees to be confirmed. And the Democrats think that they're doing the American people a favor. They're acting like a bunch of fucking crybabies. Okay, folks, that's why we need to support our president and all of the good guys. I want to give a shout out to Senator Louis Gohmert. You are a champ. Another one I want to send out a great big old thanks to is Devin Nunes. Keep going, buddy. You're going to find out what they've been doing. Let's get this rolling. These guys got to be brought to justice, or America will never be seen as a superpower ever again.